It's been a little while, but Southpaw Garage is back with its first video of 2025. Today we're going to be doing a comparison of a new set of taillights and seeing how they compare in looks to the Recon smoked lens taillights that we currently have on the truck. You can see here we've got LED lights that run along the taillight, a fully smoked lens except for the area where the reverse light is. That section is not smoked, probably to give as much light as possible for when backing up. But we're going to get this installed and see how it compares to the Recon lights. These taillights are made by Sanooer, a brand that is mostly known for running boards and mirrors for trucks like General Motors, Dodge, Ford, and Toyota. But this is their first taillight product, so I'm really looking forward to getting these installed and checking them out. Before we uninstall the Recon lights, here's a side-by-side of just what they look like during the day. So you can see that the Sanooer lights have a darker tint over the LED sections than the Recons do. So we'll get these Sanooers installed, and then we'll do a light comparison of the tail lights and the brake lights and blinkers and see how they look. Changing tail lights is pretty simple. There's a couple of screws that hold it in. And then it has textured studs that help just kind of hold it in place when the screws aren't installed. So we'll have to get it pulled out, but it should just pull kind of straight back like so. Alright, to fully remove this taillight, we'll have to unhook the harness from right here. There's a little red tab that we'll need to pull back on. And then there's a squeeze tab right here. I'm going to try to squeeze this and pull it with one hand. There we go, that was pretty easy. I thought it might be a little more difficult to squeeze it and pull on it with the angle that it is, but that was actually pretty simple right there. And then there's another harness that goes from the taillight down under the truck. So we'll get that harness unplugged and we'll pull everything up through this slot right here. Under the truck, we can see this harness right here is that taillight harness that goes up to the taillight. We'll have to cut some zip ties where we've got some things kind of zip tied together here, but that's not something that will be there from the factory. I did this when I added the lights in the bed of the truck. Check out that video if you want to check that one out while you're here on the channel. But we'll get this unplugged right here. Should just squeeze and pull out. Yep. And then we will feed this through, back up that channel right over there and pull it out from the tail light slot. So we'll get these zip ties cut and get this wire pulled up through. All right, let's take a quick look at the wiring for the Sanooer taillights. We've got the main harness. This end is the one that will go down under the truck and plug in under the frame where we unhooked the previous harness. They do provide loom clips for the wires to clip into those locations under the truck. I'm going to use the factory ones. I was able to open those up down below and get the wires out without having to pull the clips all the way out and without breaking them. So I'll reuse those. So I'm just going to keep these in case I need them for the future. On the other end of the wire, we have the small harness that's going to go into the section up here above the taillight. That's the part that's going to allow the cargo lights and everything to work. And then this one will plug into the taillight itself. It'll plug into this harness right here. This gray harness on the taillight, we're actually not going to use. It is for these resistor packs to plug in. This is for transitioning from non-LED taillights to LED taillights. But we had LEDs from the factory, so we don't need to use these. So let's run a wire down, get them hooked up, and test and make sure everything is working. All right, so I ran the wiring harness down through the truck and plugged it in under there. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the little harness up here. And then the harness into the tail light itself so that we can just test and make sure the lights are working. I do want to take this moment to state that this is simply a comparison video between two of the more common brands of aftermarket taillights for these Silverados. This is not a recommendation for either one brand. I am simply showing the differences between the two so you can decide which style and design you like better for your Chevy Silverado. Alright, so now that we've verified that everything is working, we can put the taillight in and check everything out. I will need to unplug this because I don't think the taillight's going to fit through here. Yeah, actually it will. Okay, so we'll just tuck wires in here. I will probably use some electrical tape just to cover this harness up in the long run. Actually, let me go do that really quick. So now let's finish getting this installed. Forgot to pull these little plastic covers off the studs. Oh, there we go. Okay. Alright, so now that that's installed, we'll repeat the process on the passenger side, and then we'll do a nighttime comparison of the Recon and Sanooer taillights. Alright, now that you've seen both the Recon and Sanooer taillights, you have an idea of how they differ in style. Again, I want to reiterate, this is not a recommendation video. This is simply a comparison of two common aftermarket taillights for these trucks. Speaking of, I do want to know your opinion. I'm going to have a post on the community page on YouTube with a poll that will let you vote on which style you like better, Recon or Sanooer. And I'll also put a poll on Instagram if you'd prefer to go there to state your vote as well. So I want to know what y'all think. And you can even let me know down in the comments if you have a different brand of taillights on your truck or any others that you might be interested in checking out or that you thought looked really cool. I'd be really interested in just seeing what other options are out there as well. There are 2 points about these Sanooer taillights that I would like to make. The first is a good point. The second is not as good, but very important for anyone watching this video to know. So the first one is that the reverse light does seem to be brighter on the Sanooer taillights than the Recons. Obviously, I don't know why. I don't know if they're using a higher lumen bulb or just more LEDs in that section, but I feel like the reverse light just puts out more light, and to me that's always a factor and a bonus point, because if I'm backing up the truck at night, I want as much visibility behind the truck as possible. For the second point, we're going to come down here and take a look at the wiring harness. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the harness for the factory cargo lights in the truck. This is for trucks that have the lights right there on the back corner of the bed. This harness is what powers those lights. The blue wire is power, the black wire is ground. You'll notice in this harness that the blue wire is on top and the black wire is on bottom when it's installed. And there's only one way to install this harness. But this wiring is actually not correct. Looking at the original lights from the truck and the Recon lights, that wiring harness needs to have the black ground wire on top and the blue wire on bottom. and I have checked this. These cargo lights on my truck are not currently working with the Sanooer lights installed. I've contacted Sanooer. They said they're investigating and working on it, but I felt it was important for anyone watching this video to know that if you order a set of these taillights, your cargo lights may not function if the wiring for this harness is not set up properly. Now, this is something that I could fix. I could easily just swap them around, but I feel like it's important for something that you're purchasing specific to a vehicle that that item is wired and works properly, since it's supposed to be designed for this Silverado. All right, so that's the 2 points that I wanted to mention for these taillights. Obviously, the second one, not so good, and is probably something that might not be really great when you're looking to purchase taillights, but I felt it was important for y'all watching the video to know. If you're interested in seeing the Recon install video, that video will be posted right over here. But for now, thanks for watching. This is Southpaw Garage signing out.